One of the most critical scenes in The Dark Knight is the infamous two-fairy experiment designed by the Joker. On the surface, it appears simple, but in reality it is an extremely ambitious psychological test about human nature. The Joker sets the scene as follows. There are two ferries. One carries prisoners, the other carries civilians. Each ferry is rigged with explosives, and on each ferry there is a detonator capable of blowing up the other one. The Joker announces over the radio to both ferries at the same time. Whoever presses first survives. If no one presses, you both die at midnight. At this point, the Joker's core assumption is clear. Under the threat of death, humans abandon moral principles. To survive, they will sacrifice others. This is the thesis he defends throughout the film. Human goodness is a myth. Order, morality, and law are merely shells. Apply enough pressure and everyone turns into a monster. However, what actually unfolds in the scene completely undermines the Joker's theory. On both ferries, intense anxiety, panic, and fear emerge. This is entirely natural. In psychology, this is known as the acute stress response. In individuals under threat, the fight-flight-freeze reaction is activated. People shout, argue, grow angry, and even approach violence. The film portrays this with striking realism. But the critical point is this: no one presses the button. This is not coincidence. It is not indecision. And it is not cowardice, as the Joker claims. What we see is the activation of moral self-regulation and a sense of collective responsibility. The scene on the prisoner's ferry is especially significant. The people labeled as society's worst perform a rational risk calculation, yet ultimately arrive at the same conclusion. I can't make this decision. This is the rejection of moral burden. A person may accept harm coming to themselves, but consciously killing another person to save oneself crosses a far heavier threshold. In social psychology, this is explained through the distinction between actively causing harm and passively accepting risk. Now we arrive at the breaking point in the Joker's plan. As the one who set the rules, the Joker relied on one assumption. If they don't choose, I will. Technically, this is correct. At midnight, the Joker was supposed to press the button. But this is precisely where he loses, because the Joker's entire argument rests on one claim. When people are forced to choose, they collapse morally. But what happens instead is this: people refuse to choose. This is a fatal blow to the Joker's paradigm. His game requires people to make a choice. It is designed to prove moral collapse. When no choice is made, the experiment becomes meaningless. So what would have happened if the Joker had pressed the button? This would have happened. Not the people, but the Joker would have committed the murder. The result of the experiment would then be this. Despite pressure, people did not cross the moral line. The only one who chose murder was the Joker. In that moment, the Joker would cease to be the experimenter and become the perpetrator. Scientifically, this means the experiment collapses. The outcome does not confirm the original hypothesis. It refutes it. The delay caused by Batman fighting the Joker technically prevents him from pressing the button. But that is not the real issue. The real issue is that pressing it has already become meaningless. At the end of this scene, the winner is not Batman. The winner is not Gotham. And the winner is certainly not order. The winner is this: the human moral core that does not collapse under all conditions. And the loser is clear: the Joker. Because the claim he defends throughout the film, everyone becomes like me, fails to hold even under the purest and most brutal conditions. People are afraid, trembling, shouting, but they do not become monsters. That is why the outcome of this scene is not open to debate. The loser of this social experiment is the Joker, and for perhaps the first time is forced to accept this silently. If a higher intelligence had designed this experiment, a third rule would have been unavoidable. If no one presses the button on either ferry, then you, the one who designed the experiment, the Joker, must press it. But there is a crucial detail. The button the Joker presses would not destroy others, it would destroy the Joker. Because in a real psychological experiment, especially one making bold claims about human nature, the designer cannot be exempt from risk. Otherwise, it is not an experiment, it is merely coercion. In psychology, this is called the externalization of moral risk. The designer imposes the cost on others while observing safely from a distance. This is exactly what the Joker does. He forces others to choose, but never chooses himself. For this reason, the system he creates is flawed from the start. If you truly want to test this question, does human nature collapse under pressure? Then you must also answer this one. What would I do under the same pressure? This is where the third option traps the Joker. If neither ferry presses the button, it means people have refused to kill. They have not crossed the moral boundary despite fear. The Joker's core hypothesis has collapsed. At this point, the Joker has only two options left. He does not press the button. The experiment ends. The thesis, humans are evil, remains unproven. The Joker loses in silence. He presses the button. In that case, the Joker does what the people refused to do. The experiment no longer produces results about human nature, but about the Joker's nature. In this second scenario, what the Joker experiences is not moral collapse, but moral exposure. The mask falls. Where people did not become monsters, the identity of the monster becomes clear. That is why this third option is fatal for the Joker, not physically, but theoretically. The moment he presses the button, the entire philosophy he has constructed throughout the film collapses onto himself. He can no longer say, people are evil. He can only say, I am evil. This is why the Joker could never include such a third option in his game. His game is not designed to test humanity. It is designed to protect himself. As the designer, he always remains safe. The risk belongs to others. With this third option, that safe zone disappears. And psychologically, the following truth emerges. People can refuse to commit murder even under the threat of death. But someone who holds power is far more willing to commit murder to save their ideology. So the issue is not who pressed the button. The issue is this. Who reveals who they truly are when they are forced to press it? The final outcome of this experiment is clear. Those who did not press the button remained human. The only one who was supposed to press it was the Joker. And the moment he would have pressed it, he would not have ended the game. He would have ended himself.